As you grow older, your peace becomes priceless. And after 60, your time, energy, and mental well-being are no longer negotiable. You've lived enough life to know that not everyone who shares your bloodline deserves access to your heart or your home. While family is supposed to be a source of love and support, the hard truth is, some relatives do nothing but drain you emotionally, financially, or spiritually. In this chapter of your life, boundaries are not rude, they're necessary. So let's talk about the 6 types of relatives you should absolutely avoid after 60. And number 5 may just be the wake-up call you didn't know you needed. Number 1, the constant criticizer is that relative who never learned the difference between offering constructive advice and weaponizing words to chip away at your spirit, and after 60 their presence becomes not just toxic but dangerous to your emotional health. This is the person who, under the guise of helping or being honest, constantly highlights what's wrong with your life, your decisions, your appearance, your parenting, your beliefs, anything they can find a flaw in. Their words may not be loud, but they are sharp, often dressed in passive-aggressive remarks, backhanded compliments, or comparisons that leave you second-guessing your word. They might say, "You look tired," instead of asking how you're feeling. Or they'll remind you of everything you didn't achieve, rather than celebrating all that you have overcome. At family gatherings, they can't help but point out your wrinkles, your weight, or your so-called shortcomings, forgetting that aging itself is a blessing denied to many. Their need to be right overshadows your need to be respected. And what makes them even more exhausting is their belief that they're doing you a favor by keeping it real. But in truth, what they're keeping alive is a spirit of judgment that dims your light. At this stage of your life, you've carried enough, endured enough, and proven enough. You don't need a reminder of your imperfections. You need relationships that celebrate your journey, not ones that diminish it. The constant criticizer often operates from a place of their own insecurity or unresolved pain, perhaps projecting their own disappointments onto you because they never felt free to live their own truth. But knowing their source of pain doesn't mean you're responsible for healing it or absorbing it. You've likely tolerated their attitude out of love, duty, or the belief that family is family. But unconditional access should never be given to someone who conditionally respects you. You entered a sacred season of life, where your inner peace is more important than anyone's opinion. And continuing to entertain this kind of energy will only wear down your self-esteem and steal moments of joy that you can never get back. Boundaries don't make you cold. They make you conscious. It's okay to say, "I don't receive that," or to walk away from conversations that feel like combat. It's okay to limit phone calls, decline invitations, and even create space where once there was none. Protecting yourself from the constant criticizer isn't selfish. It's self-preservation. Because after 60, your emotional landscape should be filled with love, encouragement, wisdom, and laughter. Not the noise of someone who still hasn't learned that kindness is the true measure of character. You are not here to be someone's emotional punching bag, ego boost, or target for projection. You are here to live, breathe, evolve, and enjoy the gift of your later years without constantly defending your choices or questioning your worth. So if their words consistently hurt more than they help, it's time to redefine the relationship. Not out of bitterness, but out of a deep and holy respect for yourself. Let them carry their judgment while you carry your peace. Let them live in criticism while you thrive in clarity. After all, you've earned your freedom. not just from work, stress or responsibility, but from people who mistake cruelty for love and control for connection. The days ahead are golden. Don't let anyone paint them gray. Number 2, the emotional manipulator is perhaps one of the most dangerous people to keep close after 60. Not because they're loud or aggressive, but because their tactics are subtle, disguised in guilt, cloaked in obligation, and wrapped in emotional confusion that leaves you questioning your instincts. This is the relative who doesn't directly ask for what they want. Instead, they play on your heartstrings. They remind you of all they've done for you, or worse, all you failed to do for them. They present their needs as emergencies and your boundaries as betrayals. They'll say things like, "I thought you'd be there for me," or "I guess I just don't matter anymore." When you begin to prioritize your peace, they make you feel like you owe them your time, your money, your emotional labor, and sometimes even your entire life. But what they're really doing is weaponizing your kindness, your loyalty, and your deep sense of responsibility to keep you tied to their chaos. After 60, this becomes especially harmful because your emotional energy is no longer as easily replenished. You can't afford to pour endlessly into black holes of need that never give back, only take more. These manipulators will twist reality, distort your memories, and use family dynamics or cultural expectations to make you feel ashamed for saying no. They will tell other relatives that you've changed, that you've become cold, that you've forgotten where you came from, just because you've chosen to protect your spirit. The truth is, you've changed because you're finally beginning to realize that love should not come with strings attached or invisible contracts. You've begun to understand that saying yes to yourself often requires saying no to those who demand too much. Emotional manipulators thrive in confusion. They don't want you to be clear, confident, or strong. They rely on your doubt, your fear of being misunderstood, your need for harmony, and your reluctance to hurt anyone's feelings. But here's the truth you must now live by. It is not your job to keep someone emotionally stable at the cost of your own peace. It is not your duty to rescue every drowning person when you're just learning how to swim freely in the calm waters of your own becoming. These individuals don't care about how much it drains you. They care only that they get what they want. And sadly, many of them only show up when they need something, never just to support, listen, or uplift. They treat your time as if it's endless, your resources as if they're theirs, and your love as something they can access at will without giving anything meaningful in return. After 60, the cost of keeping people like this in your life becomes too high. You deserve ease, reciprocity, and emotional safety. You deserve to have conversations that don't leave you feeling confused or guilty. You deserve relationships that don't require you to sacrifice your sanity to keep the peace. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is go silent. Not to punish, but to protect. Set clear boundaries, and don't fall for the tears, the tantrums, or the tales they spin to win you back. If someone is only close to you when they want something, that's not love, it's leverage. Real love doesn't pressure, doesn't guilt trip, doesn't need to manipulate to stay in your life. Real love respects your no, honors your space, and grows with you, not against you. So if you've been trapped in a cycle of emotional blackmail, recognize that you hold the key to the lock. You don't owe anyone unlimited access to your heart simply because you share DNA. You owe yourself the freedom to breathe deeply, love intentionally, and live peacefully. And if that means letting go of the emotional manipulator, do it not with anger, but with clarity. Because the person you are becoming, grounded, wise, and whole, has no room left for someone who thrives on keeping you small, guilty, and confused. Let them go. Reclaim your emotional space. Your soul has waited too long to live unburdened. Number 3. The financial leech is the relative who sees your hard-earned money not as the fruit of your labor and sacrifice, but as a bottomless pit they are entitled to dip into whenever their poor decisions or lack of discipline catch up to them. And after 60, continuing to entertain such a presence in your life becomes both spiritually and financially dangerous. This is the person who never respects boundaries when it comes to money. They borrow with vague promises to pay you back soon, which never happens. Or worse, they don't even ask, they expect. They make you feel guilty for saying no, often bringing up emotional history like, "Remember when I helped you that one time?" Or, "You have more than enough now. What's the big deal?" But they never acknowledge the years you spent, working long hours, saving diligently, going without, making wise investments, or simply living responsibly so you could enjoy peace in your golden years. They assume that just because you've reached retirement or simply appear stable, you should now be the family bank, therapist, and bailout system. And because you're kind-hearted, generous, and love your family, you might have said yes once, twice, maybe even 10 times, each time hoping this would be the last. But with a financial leech, no amount is ever enough. Give them $100, 0 cents. Help them with rent today, and tomorrow it's a request to co-sign a loan or dip into your retirement fund. They never look at how their choices led to their situation. They look at you and see a solution. But here's the truth. Your financial security is not a community resource. You do not owe anyone access to the fruits of your wisdom and sacrifice. After 60, your money is not just currency, it is time, it is health, it is freedom. It is the ability to breathe without fear of bills, medical emergencies, or the rising cost of living. The financial leech often operates from a place of entitlement, wrapped in emotional manipulation. They'll say things like, "I thought you loved me," or "What's family for if not to help?" But what they really mean is, what's family for if not to you? They don't see your generosity as a gift, they see it as an obligation, and worst of all, they often don't change. Helping them doesn't lead to growth or gratitude. It leads to repeated cycles of dependence, drama, and resentment. And while it may feel unkind to say no, enabling them is not kindness. It's codependency in disguise. At this stage of your life, you must begin to see your financial boundaries as sacred. You've likely helped many people over the years, children, siblings, friends, but now it's time to prioritize yourself. Financial leeches don't just drain your wallet, they drain your energy, your peace, and your future stability. Every dollar you give out of guilt is a dollar taken from the life you've earned and the dreams you still want to fulfill. And let's not forget, the stress they bring often leads to emotional burnout, which can manifest physically. The anxiety of avoiding their calls, the pressure of meeting their never-ending needs, the fear of being labeled selfish or stingish, it's all too much for a heart that has already carried so many burdens. You don't have to justify your no. You don't have to explain your budget, your goals, or your reasons. A simple, "I can't do that," or "that doesn't work for me," is enough. And if they respond with anger or distance, that's not love walking away. That's manipulation, losing access. True family respects your boundaries. True love doesn't demand sacrifice to prove itself. If someone only values you when your wallet is open, they don't value you. They value what they can extract from you. So let them be upset. Let them gossip. Let them call you names. That noise cannot compare to the quiet peace of knowing your future is secure and your energy is protected. After 60, you must choose your peace over their panic, your future over their failures, your dignity over their demands. You are not a bank. You are a human being who deserves to enjoy the fruits of a lifetime of work without being emotionally mugged by those who never learned how to manage their own. The era of financial guilt tripping is over. Step boldly into your abundance unapologetically. Let them learn, let them grow, let them figure it out without your wallet being the band-aid to their irresponsibility. Because the greatest wealth you now hold isn't just in your bank account. It's in your wisdom to say no without shame, and yes to the peaceful, self-honoring life you've earned. Number 4, the drama magnet is the relative who thrives on chaos, confusion, and emotional fireworks. And after 60, their presence becomes a serious threat to your peace, your clarity, and your emotional well-being, because every interaction with them feels like walking through a storm you never asked to be caught in. This is the person who can turn even the simplest situation into a full-blown crisis. They are always fighting with someone, always offended by something, and always dragging others into emotional messes that are often fueled by their own insecurities, unhealed wounds, or hunger for attention. Whether it's family gossip, exaggerated tales of betrayal, or constant conflict with someone in their life, they are addicted to the energy of unrest. And without realizing it, they try to make you addicted too. At first, they may seem entertaining or passionate, the kind of relative who just tells it like it is. But eventually you begin to notice that you leave every conversation feeling drained, confused, or emotionally stirred up for no reason. They thrive on reactions. If you don't react, they push harder. If you try to stay calm, they accuse you of not caring. If you offer advice, they twist it into offense. Their life is a never-ending soap opera, and you are always being pulled into the script, expected to play the roles of the rescuer, the sympathizer, the fixer, or even the villain. They call it all hours to unload their latest catastrophe. They pull you into arguments that have nothing to do with you, and they constantly need you to validate their narrative, even when it's toxic, exaggerated, or simply false. After 60, this kind of emotional instability becomes a weight your soul can no longer carry. Not because you lack compassion, but because you finally realize that peace is not something you stumble upon. It's something you protect. You don't owe anyone your mental health just because you share blood. You don't need to keep answering calls that hijack your energy. You don't need to attend family gatherings where one person's drama poisons the whole room. The drama magnet will often accuse you of being distant, heartless, or disloyal the moment you pull back. But what they're really upset about is losing control. You see, they rely on your presence to sustain their storyline. You offer stability to their chaos, and without you reacting, advising, or emotionally absorbing their storms, they are forced to sit with themselves, and many of them don't want to. But that's not your problem to fix. You are not a dumping ground for unresolved trauma. You are not a therapist, a referee, or a sponge for other people's emotional explosions. You've reached a time in your life when protecting your nervous system is more important than preserving dysfunctional ties. And let's be honest, many drama magnets don't want resolution, they want attention. They are more interested in being right than being healed, more invested in stirring conflict than creating peace. They bring up old wounds to reopen them. They weaponize secrets, and they often create sites within families to maintain power through division. But you don't have to play that game anymore. You don't have to explain your silence, your boundaries, or your absence. You are allowed to choose serenity over spectacle, stillness over screaming, inner peace over outer performance. Because you've learned the hard way that not all storms come to disrupt your life. Some come wearing familiar faces, speaking in familiar tones, and you must be wise enough to walk away, even when it's someone you've known your whole life. Let them say what they will. Let them paint you as cold. What they call cold is actually calm. What they call distant is actually discernment. What they call selfish is actually self-respect. You are no longer responsible for making unstable people feel comfortable. You don't have to sacrifice your emotional clarity just to keep the family dynamic undisturbed. You've paid your dues, learned your lessons, and now you are worthy of mornings without stress, evenings without arguments, and relationships that nourish you rather than drain you. If someone cannot bring calm into your life, they don't deserve a front row seat in your world anymore. Cut the cord with love, not anger. Step back without guilt. And if they ever learn how to live without chaos, they'll find their way back to you in peace. Until then, your peace is your priority, your soul is your sanctuary, and your time, your precious, irreplaceable time,